everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Dumb Ph.D Podcast, the only podcast where being dumbest in the room is considered a competitive advantage because we all know that we have entered into the AI era. And if you're a PhD, you must have been reading this news that ChatGPT right now also has PhD level intelligence. So being the smartest in the room might not be the best strategy to grow in your career, but it is about being the most curious in the room and ask the right kind of questions. So whether you're a PhD, pursuing PhD, or finished your PhD, or someone like me who ran away and took a U-turn after their PhD, this show is all about navigating that existential crisis called career. And today I have with me Dr. Amborish Banerjee, who I had the honor of knowing for a very long time. I cannot look back at the past and think of the number of years of association we had, and I have been seeing his journey since his college days and how he has been conquering every obstacle and growing so well in his career and doing so well in the translational research and manufacturing sector that he is contributing to. And we are going to learn a lot about him. But before that, let me also quickly tell you about Amborish's quick background. Amborish is coming from a mechanical metallurgy background. Right now, he is a technical specialist at Advanced Research Forming Centre in Scotland, where he works on the cutting edge of industrial projects with corporate giants like Rolls-Royce, Boeing, and Airbus. And before all that, he was deep in the world of mechanical metallurgy, as I mentioned earlier, investigating how materials crack, fatigue, and hold up under extreme conditions. And maybe that's not too different from how we survive in academia, to be honest. And though I have personally also studied multi-axial fatigue, I see that happening in our life too. I wish there was an instrument that could measure the fatigue in us. And coming back to Amborish again, his award-winning PhD from UNSW Sydney explored deformation in high carbon steel under impact and strain. So if you're someone from the material science or mechanical metallurgy background, this might be the podcast which may be particularly relevant to you, though it's relevant for everybody. And you might have some questions about where does studying mechanical metallurgy take you. Then you're going to get some insights over here. And what is equally striking about him is his ability to bring lyrical, almost poetic calm to the songs and to the people he captures with his beautiful voice. Okay, so today we are not just talking about stress strain curves and sustainable manufacturing. Of course, we are going to be getting into all of that. We are talking about the layers of life shaped by science, song, and exploration. So, Amborish, welcome to the Smart Dumb PhD podcast. And let's start with what drew you to mechanical metallurgy? Like, was it a very conscious decision, or it was like it happened out of the blue? You didn't know where to go, but you just took it up because it came your way. Amborish.
Hi, Rima. Thank you very much for such a lovely introduction. I don't know how much I deserve it, but thank you. But yeah, I would like to say I'm working at the Advanced Forming Research Center. It's not Advanced Research Forming Center, which I always keep mentioning. So having said that, yeah, coming from mechanical background and taking metallurgy in my master's was one of the conscious decision, I would say, because I understood that there is a significant lag between the mechanical people who can understand the material side. So in any sector, let's say in manufacturing or even in any sector of engineering, you need to know the materials aspect as well. So without a good material scientist, I would say you cannot be, I would not say you cannot be, but it's good to have a things of both mechanical as well as the materials aspect in your career. So that was a very conscious decision, I would say. And getting landed up at IIT Kharagpur was always a dream college. So from there, my journey started. And I met you when I was doing my master's intern at NML Jamshedpur, CSIR. So there I work on the fatigue life of nickel-based superalloy. And from there, I look forward for a PhD in solid mechanics from UNSW, University of New South Wales, Sydney. And that's it. Once I completed my PhD, just because of the bread and butter, I came to UK. The other reason was that I wanted to work in the field of manufacturing, and UK, as you know, is one of the best hubs when it comes to advanced manufacturing, sustainable manufacturing, and niche manufacturing, all those things. So that took me from Australia to UK, though there was a huge shift because Australia has a very lovely weather. With all due respect to the UK's weather, It was quite depressing the moment I came to UK, but I think within the last 5 years, I've been well acclimatized with the weather, and it's now a second home to me after India. So yeah, enjoying the work here, enjoying the work-life balance, enjoying the peace. There is a harmony in the air. I would say we have a very good community here as well. So yeah, life is treating me well. Thank you.
Wonderful, Amborish. And firstly, thank you for correcting me over there on the AFRC center name. It's again, I stand corrected, it's Advanced Farming Research Center. Now, we did learn about how that journey went by, and you made it seem like it was very easy. It just happened like that, but I'm sure it didn't happen like that. So, on that note, I want to get a little bit deeper into your journey. Say, post your PhD, when you were looking for jobs, what kind of jobs were you looking for and why? And right now, you are into translational research, right? So, many academicians are not aware of what translational research is about. So, can you elaborate a bit on these two questions?
So actually, before submitting my thesis, almost 5 or 6 months before, I started looking for postdoctorate opportunities within the European nations as well as UK. So UK and Europe are my first priorities. So I started looking for firstly labs where I can have a hands-on experience on the manufacturing as well as the mechanical aspect. So I had a couple of offers when I got my before submitting my thesis. I have an offer from Canada as well as from the UK. But then I took a decision that I should go to UK. There was two reasons. First off, the major reason was India. UK is quite close to India, so my parents can always come. And the second reason was UK is one of the hubs in advanced manufacturing. And when I joined AFRC, when I asked about the job prospects, they told me that AFRC is working in the field of advanced manufacturing, and they are working with very great aerospace as well as other giants, let's say Rolls-Royce, Boeing, Airbus, and other tier one members of the AFRC. So that was quite, I would say, challenging thing for me, because I thought that would give me a lot of exposure in the field of advanced manufacturing, followed by the mechanical metallurgy, and I thought that would be a great place for me to learn as well. So that's why I chose to come to UK. Now, when I landed in UK, when I went to the lab is one of the best labs I've ever seen in my life. It's one of the 7 catapult centers within the UK, with the only one in the Scotland, and it has all the modern facilities, all the equipments which are there for doing the metal forming. So that is one of the area which I always wanted to have a niche upon in the field of metal forming, metal welding and joining, all those things. So that's how I started working at the AFRC, and it's almost 5 years. Recently, I moved to ITP Aero, but then I have been again. I came back to AFRC because I felt that I'm a kind of person who loves to be in the labs, because I'm a very hardcore experimentalist person with a bit of modeling. So, but I love to go into the labs, love to see all the experiments every day happens, how it's changing the, or I should say, how it's making a huge impact on the day-to-day life of the other people. Because we all know that the world's vision is to have carbon-free flights by 2050. So we are just working as, let's say, a tiny drop in the ocean. But that helps us to achieve the bigger zone, the bigger goal of the entire European, or I should say, the world vision of having carbon-free flights. So since I'm contributing in that field as well, I think that's something which gives me a mental satisfaction, a mental peace. Now, when it comes to the translational research, sorry. The translational research is the bridging gap between the academic research as well as the industrial research. So when it comes to academic research, they mostly work in between TRL 1 to TRL 3.5. So when I say TRL is technology readiness level. So it's a very fundamental research, which most of the times occurs in the, let's say, any of the universities. Now, when a concept has been fundamentally proved, it has to be implemented at a bigger scale, right? So we work, let's say, any of the labs, we work in between TRL 3.5 to 6.5. So that means we are bridging the gap between the academic as well as the industries. So now when we work up to, let's say, TRL 6.5, that means now the component can be actually tested as in terms of the actual component, and then it can be go to the industry. So after that, the industry take over from there, and then they do the actual lab testing with all the dynamics where the component is subjected to. And if it comes well, it goes into production. So we work in a very innovative field where we know the fundamental, the concept has been proven, but whether it's going to be actually feasible or not, that's something which we work on. Let's say one of the example I would say for the metallurgy people, titanium is quite difficult to deform at room temperature because of the hexagon structure. So what we have to do, sometimes people do the warm forming where they heat up the material and then they do the deformation. Now, we have proven that at the fundamental scale that yes, that can be done. But when it comes to the actual component, for such a bigger component where you have a lot of different physics, let's say thermal conductivity, mechanical deformation, all those things, whether it's actually going to be happened in that particular scenario or not, that's something which we have to look into it. And once we prove this concept, it goes to the industry for the implementation. So I would say that's a very challenging and innovative way of working in a lab scale, and that's what something which I enjoy. Though I always say teaching is my passion and science is my life, research is my life. But yeah, I'm able to do both, fulfill both my passion as well as my dream when I work in such type of labs. So yeah, that's what I would say in terms of translational research.
So just to explain our viewers one more time, TRL level that Amborish has been talking about ranges from 1 to 10. Amborish, correct me wherever needed, okay? So it ranges from 1 to 10. So 1 to 3 is somewhere you have proof of concept, you have done experiment in lab scale, and that's where you publish more papers, right? But then that has not been put into test in real life. So when it's been put into test in real life, that's where you arrive at TRL, technology readiness level of 6 or 7, and post that the industry picks it up for its usage in components. That is exactly what you mentioned, right, Ambarish? Yes? Okay. So you can see now how Ambarish is working at the intersection of both academic projects as well as projects that are directly relevant to the industry. On that note, Ambarish, I just want to quickly ask you that this is a very different work, right? And the accountability in this case is much higher compared to just doing full-blown academic work. What do you feel about that, Ambarish?
That's correct, Rima. So when we are into the academic world, one of the major objectives is what I said, to prove the fundamental concept. And now when it comes to the translational research, we have to make it sure that it can be actually implemented in industry at a larger scale. So we have to be mindful and thoughtful with some of the things, let's say the intellectual property or the IPs, I would say, because that's something, if suppose we're working on the hardcore industry projects, we cannot simply just outsource the information or cannot give the information to the other people until and unless it has been accepted. So for the industrial manufacturing, I would say. So we have to be very thoughtful on those things. Sometimes also we have to tweak the parameters. Let's say if we have to write a paper or we have to publish something, we cannot give the actual parameters which we have used for the testing. So what we did at that time, we scale up the parameters, and we mentioned very well in the papers as well that these are the scaled up parameters. So what happens when we do such type of things? First of all, our work gets a huge amount of visibility. Because we know the people, when they're reading the paper, they come to know that we are actually working on the real engineering problems, which can be beneficial to industries. And the second thing I would say, it gives a good recognition to the center as well as to you also as a person, because you know that at any moment of your time, you're working in a field where it's actually going to make some changes in the industries after a few years or after a couple of decades, you would say. But you are significantly contributing to the development of the economy. So that's something which gives you a huge amount of satisfaction, I would say. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Ambarish, for elaborating that on a little bit more. Now that you interact with, say, people in companies like Rolls-Royce and Boeing, say you're interacting with engineers or PhDs from those companies, and you are working at university. So AFRC is actually University of Strathclyde, right? If I don't get it wrong. But this kind of work, this kind of ecosystem where a university is working directly with the industry is much rare. The combination I see is much rare. And are you aware of any other such ecosystems apart from in UK that are working this actively to contribute to the advancement of the manufacturing sector?
That's correct, Rima. So I would say UK has a very good, robust system in this aspect. So we have 7, let's say, catapult centers, which are the high-value manufacturing centers within the UK, and most of them they are associated with one of the universities. Let's say Advanced Forming Research Center. It's not part of the NMIS, but it comes under the University of Strathclyde. Whereas that's the WMG, which is the Warwick Manufacturing Group. It comes under the University of Warwick. Now, what happens? It helps in a couple of ways, because though we are working on industrial projects, but we are also generating some fundamental knowledge as well. So when you're generating a fundamental knowledge and you have some PhDs who are also there within the center, they needs to have been affiliated with some universities, right, to get their degree as well. So that's how it works in the UK. So most of the catapult centers, they're run by a university. So if you're getting a PhD or even a master's degree, so when you're working at any of the research labs, you get the degree affiliated by the same particular university. And what happens, it brings a lot of credentials to the university as well, because university has when it says that it has such good laboratory facilities, let's say in terms of engineering or medicine or any other STEM subjects. It gives a lot of credentials to the university, and it also increases the I would say the international exposure, because many people they come to Strathclyde for their masters or for their PhD, and they know because Strathclyde has such good robust lab facilities as well. So that's something which is very unique in UK, I would say. I don't know how it works in India, but to be honest, I don't know how. I know CSIR they are working, but they have ACSIR, right? So that they get their PhD from the ACSIR. But I don't know about the other Indian universities whether there are some hubs within the IITs I know, but I think such type of facilities are quite rare to see.
On that note, Amborish, shifting gears, that you have lived and worked across three different countries now, right? And so, how did each of its place leave a mark uh, on you, and how has that impacted your work? Or what is the one thing you found common across countries that you worked at?
So I always put like this: India is my Matrbhumi, that is my motherland. Australia was my Karma Bhumi, or I would say working land, and the same applies to UK as well, because whatever I learned is from India, because I did my entire schooling there, my education was there till masters, and then I moved to Australia for my PhD. So that gave me a different exposure. So I'm not sure about how the PhD systems in India works, but I'm very sure that's very robust as well. But the difference which I found in Australian and in Indian universities is that Australian universities they are very much focused on the industrial aspect, whereas Indian universities they are focused on both. I would say the industrial as well as the fundamental aspect as well. That applies to Australian universities as well, without any with due respect to all the universities. But yeah, in Australia they are more focused on the how your PhD is going to help the industries to boom, because most of the scholarships which are coming. In any of the European nations, they come from the either let's say from the industries or even from the government as well. But they need to see that how it's going to change the human life or how it's going to make effect to the industries. So this would say I would say about Australia and in India. When I came to UK, that was a completely different scenario, because UK has so many industrial giants. Let's start with Rolls-Royce. You have Airbus as well. You have Safran. You have Jaguar. So you have, and also when it comes to defense, you have BA systems as well. So these are the hardcore engineering industries who work in the field of mechanical metallurgy. I would say or other core sectors of engineering as well. And when you work with all these industries on a very close note on a daily to daily basis, you actually come to know how fascinating the industries are and how lucrative their job prospects, I would say, or even I would say how challenging on what challenges they're working as well. Because being a PhD holder, my always dream was to land into academics just as a professor or a lecturer. That's still a tiny bit still today as well, I would say. But after landing in the AFRC working for 5.5 years, I've understood that this is something which gives me a kick every day. So every day I am desperate to go to my lab. I'm so much excited to go to the lab because I know every day I'm going to learn something new. I don't know other places how much they will give you that particular amount of kick, but especially in my case, when I go to such labs, I feel that inner consciousness always waking me up in the morning to go to the lab. So yeah, I would say this was the major difference. So mostly UK and Australia, they were very much onto the industrial research as well, followed by a good balance of fundamental research. And I think the same must be applied to India, but I have not have much exposure to Indian ecosystem when it comes to the PhD and post PhD level. Yep.
I love that pointer that you touched on, that being academic, you get boxed in that academic thinking that you want to get into a faculty position or a professor position. And however, you are not even aware of what is the kind of work that's going on in industry. And the moment you're exposed to that, it is literally mind blowing as to how you are working at the cutting edge of technology and how that's changing the world. And that's exactly what you highlighted, that it's one thing that's giving you a kick now, and you realize that there's a lot to learn when it comes to industry as well. Now, because we are speaking about industry and working at the cutting edge of technology, and now we have AI in the equation, right? So I want to ask you, how do you see that? How is AI invading the space? And if you could speak about some manufacturing technologies where you are thinking of how AI can make it better and how you're using AI in your everyday work as well. If you can elaborate something so that the PhDs who might be wanting to get into manufacturing sector might get an idea of the kind of AI tools or apps or exposure that they should have while trying to aim for these kinds of jobs. Ambarish.
Thanks, Ripa. So I'm using AI tool, let's say, but I'm just using AI tool for the some writing purposes. So let's say if I'm writing a paper or something, so I've written the concept, I know what's there happening, and then just to give a bit brush up or to make the language bit more beautiful, I think most of the researcher or even I'm using let's say ChatGPT or other AI tools as well. Now, when it comes to the manufacturing and how I'm using AI, I would say AI cannot give you the best parameters. Let's say I have to weld an object. So AI cannot give you the best parameters. It can give the parameters based on the literature survey which you have earlier, but it cannot predict the parameters for you. But what AI can give you, let's say you have 4 or 5 different parameters, AI can give you based on the literature survey that okay, which of the parameters is going to be the most influential one. So which is the most significant parameters. So that is something which AI can give you, and from there you have to use your analytical brain to now see okay, out of X, Y, Z, I have the X which is the most dominant one. Now within the X, if I change the values, let's say A, B, C, or D, how it's going to affect the mechanical properties or how it's going to change the deformation behavior of the material. That's something which you have to work on. So AI can help you in finding within the 4 parameters or 5 parameters which may be the most significant one. But when it comes to that particular parameter, then you have to make an analytical call that how you're going to change the different parameter settings and optimize the things. So that's something which I would say AI is very good at that. And again, the other use of AI I see is in terms of creating PowerPoint presentations. Though I still use PowerPoint, but I think that's the one of the best tools I use so far. But yeah, there are a lot of AI tools which gives you a good understanding. So if you write all the script, then it gives you a lot of cool pictures. So I think that's also cool as well. So I've used it for a couple of times, but I'm not heavily relying on AI for the time being. Apart from making some corrections in my grammar, let's say, or even some making some good sentences or law. That's it.
So, as I understood, Amborish, you said so if you had to design an experiment, then the number of parameters that you have in the experiment, it may not be humanly possible to go through, which is the most optimized parameter. And that's where an AI can predict it better for you. And that's what saves time, right? So, that's where your analytical thinking comes in. That's where your PhD training comes in, like which is the one that you are going to, what are the parameters that you're going to select, and then how you're going to optimize it. That's where you can use AI, right? Now, on that note, I want to ask you, why do you think moving forward PhDs would stay relevant and someone actually should do PhD in 2025 and where they can see themselves after say 5 years? Because now you are in the manufacturing sector and you know how fast it's changing, but academia may not catch up with that pace, just academia, right? So why should someone do PhD, and how can they keep at pace once they finish their PhD 5 years after that?
Thanks, Rima. So, uh, PhD, I would say it trains your mind to think in a wider aspect on a specific field. So, I would say when you do bachelor's, you are masters of jack of everything, masters of none. When you come to masters, I would say like this: when you did your bachelor's, you say, "I know everything about mechanical engineering." Right? That's what we used to say. When we did masters, we say, "Oh, I know a particular area of mechanical engineering." Let's say design. Now, when it comes to PhD, within that particular stream, you would say, I know only this much. But when I say I know this much, I am fully confident I know everything about it. So let's say my expertise is on the strain and deformation behavior, fatigue. So I'm very confident I know everything about fatigue. When I say everything, that means whatever I learned. It's learning is always it's always a progressional thing. But when you say I know something, that means I know something. So that's the difference between the PhD as well as the bachelor's. So when it comes to the industry, when you have to take any decisions which are very crucial, I would say PhDs they always make a difference because based on their training in the past and based on their knowledge and experience, they can sometimes make a very vital decision. I would say, which is actually going to affect the last scenario, I would say. So PhDs they are definitely required even in industries in UK as well. PhDs they are given a lot of respect. I don't think it's within the UK, it's within the entire world. PhDs they get a lot of respect, and they have been highly, I would say, what should I say? They've their position is very high when it comes to industry. So there have been a lot of respect. So that's something which is very much essential when you grow in your organization. So yeah, I think.
And I also want to ask one more question is do you also think that PhD makes you a better researcher, or you can be a good researcher even without a PhD, just with a master's? Because now you're working with industry, and you must have been working with a lot of masters too, who are in positions, say, as principal scientist or senior scientist. So, what is your opinion there?
That's a great question, Rima, and I have been asked this question so many times. I would always say you don't need a PhD to be a good researcher, obviously. There is absolutely no requirement of having a PhD. But what PhD makes a difference, I would say, it somehow increases your analytical thinking because you have been working in a small area for, let's say, 5 or 6 years to earning that degree. You're so much into it that it gives, I would not say it gives you an upper edge, but somewhere it gives you a better analytical thinking. Though there are a lot of master students and bachelor students also who have very sharp analytical thinking and they are very good researcher as well. So with all due respect to all of them, PhD always gives you a bit more analytical thinking, which helps you to grow and understand the basic problem, which may sometimes be overlooked by some other people as well. But the PhD people will always think they will explore all the angles. So if you know this component is not working, what is the real challenges, why it's not working, you may have 8 or 9 possibilities. And sometimes the PhD holders I've seen, they tick mark all the boxes. They wanted to know, okay, if this is working, if this is not working, if this is working, like this. So I think that's how you get a bit of advantage, but you don't need a PhD to be a good researcher. That's absolutely good.
Okay, thank you for confirming that, because that's the opinion even I carry based on my conversation with many, masters professionals also who are actually leading technologies and all of that. So thank you so much for confirming that. Now, coming back to a question which is about, you have been in many hiring rooms, right, Amborish? Seeing people getting interviewed, seeing people seeing PhDs getting interviewed, right? So, what were the things that you thought that even though the PhD has the right technical skills, they were not hired for? And what were the exact skills, a combination of skills or any particular skills that everybody is looking for, that the PhD is getting hired for, even though they might be on a scale of 1 to 10, they might be a 8 on the technical skills, but someone else may be a 9, but they didn't get hired. But the one who was a 8 got hired.
That's again a good question, Rima. You are bombarding me with so many tough questions. But when it comes to the hiring of the PhD students, what I faced, I would say, when I was preparing for interviews, I felt that the person is taking my interview. Obviously, let's say when you're being hired, one of the panel members will definitely be a PhD holder. Most of the time it happens, right? So you always feel, let's say when I was giving an interview in one of the big short universities within the Canada, the faculty was sitting in front of me. He's having almost 10,000 citations. He was a quite big shot, and I was just starting my career. So I was under the impression, oh, this person knows so many things, whereas I don't know how I'm going to cope with his knowledge. But you have to always remember one thing, that the person who's sitting on the other side of the camera is having almost 20 or 25 years of experience, or even, let's say, 5 or 10 years experience. And within that experience, let's say when you gain that particular experience, you will be equally confident, you'll be equally knowledgeable, you'll be equally knowing about the things. Because the person on the other side is asking you what he knows, but he doesn't know how much I know, right? So there is always that gap is there. So I would say just on an interview, you cannot judge an entire person about his technical skills, but you come to know about the things. But what happens, the PhD students, they always feel a bit shy, or I would say sometimes they're a bit nervous as well. They feel that, okay, their knowledge is not as good as the professor, which definitely cannot be, because the professor is having almost 10 or 15 years of experience. So you have to come up that fear, I would say, to excel in the interviews. And that's why when I came up that fear, I got a couple of shortlisting from the good universities, and that's how I landed the FRC as well, I would say. So that's very much important. uh, Sorry, you asked the second question. What was the second question?
Yeah, the second question was, like, say there are two candidates appearing for the interview, and both of them are technically adept, and one person, say, is on a scale of 1 to 10, 8 on technical competency, and the other person is a 9 on technical competency. But what are the other skills that might be taken into consideration, which might not even hire, because of those additional skills? You don't get hired as a PhD, even though you have a high technical competency, like you're scoring a 9 out of 10, but even with 8, you're getting hired because you might have that other skills, which the just having technical competency might not help you. Because as PhDs, we think that technical competency is one of the markers of our competency, or markers that define whether we land the job or not. Ambarish.
Yeah, that's correct, Rima. So, when it comes to the hiring of the people, obviously technical stuff is very much important, but when they're getting hired for, let's say, the industrial role or something, or even this academic non-academic positions, translational position, one of the most important thing is your vocabulary, how effectively you can communicate with other people, because you have to I would say translate your innovative ideas to the technician, right, who are working. So you have to be very innovative, and you have to be very lucid when you are explaining. So that is very much important a company looks into. So suppose you have a technical scale of 8 out of 10, other person is having 10 out of 10. But if he or she cannot able to disseminate their ideas, then it's very difficult, right, for the company or any other industry. So that's why it's very important that you're able to translate or communicate your ideas, because you also have to deal with a lot of stakeholders as well, right? So if you're not able to speak, I would not say speak, if don't have very good vocabulary skills, if you cannot able to understand what the other people they're saying, if you can't able to communicate your ideas, then it's quite difficult sometimes. And that's why the reason the people always feel, okay, this person is do may have less technical competency or as compared to the other person, but overall entire package is better than the person is more technical competent, because he can able to communicate well, he can able to speak with the stakeholders as well, he can able to communicate the idea as well, he can go to the labs, and he can have a very good reputation with the people who are working. So all those things are very important. So these are the key reasons, I would say.
Okay, so now if you were to start your PhD in 2025, okay, so what would be Amborish's advice to PhDs starting their PhD in 2025, so that 2 3 years or 5 years down the lane, when they finish their PhD, they are able to position themselves well for industry jobs?
So my only advice, one of the advices I would say, that they should not rely on the AI much, apart from the writing stuff. Let's say there are nowadays there are so many AI tools where if you just upload any of the images or something, the AI gives a good narrative of what's happening. But it should be rather you, on the other hand, who should make a judgment, because AI is again something which is artificial intelligence. So what itself is artificial intelligence. So it's not having the human intelligence. So your brain has to be developed in that way, because suppose tomorrow if you're becoming in an industry, and if a person is coming asking you for help, and if you say, okay, let's wait, just type in the chat gpt and see what chat gpt says, you think what the impression the person is going to have for the other person. So that's something you always have to train your mind in such a way that you don't use all these AI tools, especially for the analytical stuffs. Yeah, once you're writing, that's always fine, because you need to brush up. And sometimes it's also possible that if you may not be from an English speaking nation as well, so you have to brush up your languages. That's completely fine, and that is justified as well. But the thinking stuff or making a decision, that should always be something which it should be coming from you, and that's something which should develop in your PhD. So that's why I would say.
Okay, did you already have that experience? Are people already doing that? They're using a lot of AI to do stuff and delegate work that actually they should be thinking about? I'm just curious to know, is that already happening with PhDs too?
Yes, it's happening. So because I would not say the name and the geographical location of the person, but he just gave me a call one day, and then he said, "Dada, I'm looking into this, and can you let me know this is correct or not?" I said, "That's fine, but from where? How you started to thinking about this particular thing?" So he said, "No, no, actually, I just uploaded it in the one of the AI tools, and the AI gave me a narrative. Now I just wanted to make sure that this is correct or not." So now what's happening, to make it sure also, he can't do it by himself. He has to come to other person to make it sure whether it's correct or not. So that's something which is what's happening. If you keep on doing, you are going to make it in a habit. So yeah, suppose out of 100, if you're doing just for one time, it's something very complex thing. Yeah, uploaded the things, chat GPT or any AI tools that have given you narrative, that's fine. But if you're using it for all the 100 times, that's prohibiting your mental brain to develop. It's not evolving, and that's very, I would say, a serious situation, I would say, because after let's say 10 or 15 years, if you even have to frame one sentence, you're going to ask ChatGPT. So what you're going to deliver to the next generation or even to your kids as well. So that's something you have to always keep in mind, that you should be thinking about the stuffs. And after what you thought, you can put it in the AI for brushing up, but not more than that. That's what my advice I would say.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that quick anecdote. And now I want to ask you, if you reflect back on your journey from where you started after doing your PhD to where you are right now, which is more of a leadership position, what is one skill that you have been continuously working on, number one? And what is the one skill moving forward, like in the next 5 years, you want to work on and get better on?
So I would say the one skill, sorry, Rima, I have a very bad throat today. So when it comes to the one skill, I would say enhancing my technical knowledge every day. That is one of the skills which I have developed every day, because even now also since I have to review some PhD thesis as well, sometimes I have to review papers as well. So I always keep on reading papers. So papers or even a small chapter from the book, I always take 1 hour of my day to read something. So that enhances my knowledge. It keeps on adding what I know. So that's something which I always keep on working. And yeah, I would say I have a congregation of three specific things: integrated, commitment, as well as passion. I have a huge passion for research. I have said no to jobs where I was getting paid almost twice or 200 percentages compared to what I'm getting now. But that's what not which I'm passionate towards. So it's very much important to have that passion. So I have a huge passion for research, I would say. I'm very much committed to it. So when I start working, I don't see at what time I entered the lab, at what time I leave in the lab. Sometimes I left at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the evening, where people say you should have a good work-to-life balance, which is very much important. But I'm saying that sometimes you are so much into that thing, or you are so much into that particular stuff, you just forget about the time. So sometimes my wife has to give me a call. It's almost 10 o'clock. Are you coming for the dinner or not? So I say, I'm just coming. So that's a commitment and the passion which I have. And these two things are getting tied up by the word integrity, I would say, or the integrated. So that's the three words I would say.
So it's integrity, self-learning, and commitment, right? So those are three values, if I may put it that way, that are continuously driving you. And since you quickly touched upon this work-life balance, right? And there's so much debate, like the number of hours that you should devote to work and family. So what is your whole take on that? Though you touched upon it lightly, but what is your own take on that? And also, how much time should a PhD devote to their PhD? Should they be working over weekends also or not? Like, how do you look at this whole thing?
So when it comes to the work-life balance, Rima, I would say, uh, as quoted by the great Abdul Kalam, you should always love your job, but not your company. With all the due respect, where I'm working in other companies as well, because your job is something which motivates you. So right. So when it comes to work-life balance, the normal standard in the UK or any European nation is 35 hours per week or 37 hours per week. And I think that gives you a decent amount of time to spend with the family. And I believe that's very important because you must be aware that I'm going to have a kid soon. So I think once the kid comes, I also have to give a lot of time to the family. So that's very much important. So there should always be a balance between your professional career as well as your personal life. So both should not be mingled. And at the same time, there should not be huge difference. So it has to be balanced very well. And now I think the second question you asked about the
PhDs, during PhD,
PhDs.
should they be working over weekends also, or they should think about a balance, or they should keep working throughout the week? What's your take? How were you working when you were in your PhD?
So I would say this is depend. It's very much depending on the person who is working or the individual, because see, everyone has their own stories. So everyone is having their own challenges in their life. Let's say in my case, my father was suffering from cancer when I studied my PhD. So my intention was to finish the PhD as soon as possible. So I work almost every Saturday Sunday. Not a single Saturday Sunday I left. I work in the lab. Just the only time I used to come quickly from the lab is on Sunday evening, so that I can do the groceries and then come back and then cook the food. Otherwise, I started at 8 o'clock and used to finish at 10:30 or 11:30 as well. Almost 2 years, 11 months I took to complete my PhD. But having said that, there are many situations where you don't have all those. Not financial, I would say, the family crunch or all those crunch situations. If you're having a good peace of mind, you should focus on both your professional as well as the personal life, even your PhD, because PhD is a huge commitment. In most of the European nations, it's 3.5 to 4 years. In America, it's almost 5.5 years. In India, it's also 5.5 years. So you should make a good balance between your personal life, because if you lose those 5.5 years of yourself just focusing on your PhD, not doing anything else, not developing any further skills, that's not going to help you in your end for your long run, right? So you have to make a balance about it. But yeah, what I said, everyone has a different story. My story was completely different. So I had to work almost 7 days a week. But there may not be that particular situation for the other person as well. There are many people who has this financial crunch, so they have to save some money from their PhD for what the stipend they used to get, and they used to send it to India. So I think everyone has their own story. So it's completely different. It's completely different, depending on the person who is doing his PhD.
Absolutely, I agree on that. Even I had my story. I had my baby, so I was so committed during the entire week, but I never worked on Saturdays, Sundays once I had the baby, right? And I have a couple of more questions. And on that note, I want to ask you that how do you see that doing PhD in India gets you those kind of exposure in industry, the kind of jobs available for you in India? On a scale of 1 to 10 after PhD, how would you rate them versus outside India in ecosystems like UK, Canada, or USA?
So let's say in UK we have an NHD system as well. So NHD is engineering doctorate. So where they work on industrial problem, where they took one of the industry problems and they try to solve it in that 3 years. So that's the NHD. I think in India we don't have any NHDs, all PhDs, because most of the PhDs they are focusing on the fundamental aspects. Though you have some projects coming from the industries as well, but India has only PhD system, whereas in UK and I think that's very innovative way. I've never heard about NHDs outside UK. So they are technically dealing with one of the industry problems. And what happens when they do NHDs, they are getting hired by the same companies after 3 years or 3.5 years. So I think that gives them a good career satisfaction, and not a satisfaction, I would also say gives them an assurance that after 3 years, if I'm able to do well, this company is going to hire me as well. So let's say there are lots of PhD opportunities coming via Rolls-Royce. If you go to jobs.ac.uk, you will see a lot of the PhDs funded by the Rolls-Royce and any other companies as well. And many times it happens that after working, they straight away get hired into this big shot company. So that give you always a mental peace, because one of the major thing which you always keep on thinking during PhD, like what I'm going to do after PhD, what jobs, and because you have a very narrow jobs, you have a very narrow lines of job, right? Because you become some choosy. You have to select some particular sects where you are going to focus on. So that always keeps you keep on thinking in the back of your mind that where you are going to end it up. But suppose you have, while doing PhD, if you know, okay, after 3.5 years I'm going to land up in such a company, almost assured job. That's something which gives you a lot of mental satisfaction. And I think the same should now be applied to India as well. India should come up with all these innovative ideas where the companies are sponsoring and they make it sure that if the project is delivered well, if the student has done well, they should be automatically hired by that. I think there are some PhD programs, let's say the Australian fellowship, something like that, where the people from here, they go to Deakin universities and then they come back to India. I know there are some, let's say Bharat Forge, there are a few companies which are there who are working, but I think it has to be escalated. That's something which I feel.
Also, I want to ask you, how long should a PhD do postdoc? What's your opinion there? Because postdoc is such a perpetual loop. Once you get into it, you can continue doing it for as long as you want, but then it doesn't take you anywhere. So, in your opinion, how long should someone do a postdoc if they're looking for an industry transition?
Sirim, I would say, if I just, it's my personal comment, postdoc should not be more than 3 years. That's it. That's the maximum number of postdocs you should have if you are planning to come back to industries. But suppose if you're planning to stay in academics, then it depends when you're getting the right position, when you're getting the right move, and then you're translating. So I've seen many of my friends who have done postdoc for 5 years, and they have been landed into academic jobs. Whereas few of my people, they have just done postdoc for 1.5 years, and they straight away went to industries. My case, I didn't went for any postdocs because I got a postdoc from Canada, but at the same time I got it from AFRC as well. And AFRC was almost like a secure kind of job. And when I say secure, it's not means that I'm going to be open-ended or something. It means it gives you that mental satisfaction that your work on the field in which you are going to work. So yeah, I did postdoc. I straight away landed in one of the good research centers, I would say. But yeah, normally postdoc for academics should be only time before you're landing up into the academics. But for PhD, for industry scale, I think 3 years should be more than sufficient. You should not stretch your life because it not gives you that social, not I would say social, but the financial balance. Because let's say after 3 years you don't have any projects, then your supervisor is going to say, "See, I don't have any further money." So let's see. So that's all those things which you have to keep in your mind.
Yeah, I was saying the supervisor is going to say bye-bye, right? When you don't have funding, right? So I'm tempted to again ask this question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how difficult is it to land an academic job versus landing an industry job? What's your experience there?
See, landing an academic job, it's quite difficult. And difficult is because academic is a very small world, right? So you have to compete with the best minds. When I say it's the same applies to industries as well. But academic is comparatively very narrow, very small world, and the positions are always there are very few positions. So let's say in particular, let's say University X, they will hardly recruit once or twice a year just for one or two position, and also that depends on the hierarchy. Suppose a professor is leaving or a lecturer has left, so you have to backfill that position. If you already have the same person, you are not going to get hired for the same skills. But that doesn't apply to industries because industries they keep on growing, so you can have so many people with the same skill sets, with the same mindset, everything. So landing in an industry, if you have a good technical knowledge, with a good vocabulary skills, with a good communicating skills, that's comparatively easier, I would say, as compared to academics. But that's just because of the regime or the domain, because academic world is quite smaller as compared to the industries.
Exactly. So the amount of opportunities that are available in industry because of the scale at which the industry is available is much higher than when it comes to academia, which gets very narrow, right? So, on that note, I want to ask you, how do you deal with uncertainty? Okay, are you ever scared, Amborish, of what's coming in the future? Again, with the AI thing going around, there's so much talks about AI and all of that. Do you ever fear what's coming in the future? Would I stay relevant or not? So, how do you deal with such kind of uncertainties if those thoughts come to your mind?
See, uncertainty is a mathematical principle which you cannot avoid. In everything, you have uncertainty, right? So, yeah, that's something which bothers me as well. But I am also equally confident that if I keep on learning, let's say machine learning and artificial intelligence, they are ruling the world now. And nowadays, you have so many courses on artificial intelligence and machine learning as well. Like even engineering colleges, they have started giving bachelor's degree in artificial intelligence and machine learning. So, if you keep on exploring or expanding your knowledge, I don't think you're going to be a person who is not being looked after 5 or 10 or 15 years. So you are not going to be an obsolete person. You have to just keep on learning the new things. So I'm not scared with that one, but uncertainties are always there. So if you have to be on the market, you have to be the best product. That's it. Survival of the fittest. That's something which everyone they have to follow.
Okay, so on that note, I want to come back to your singing a bit. Okay, we all knew how good a singer you were, and you still are. You still continue to sing at many occasions, be it public, be it private. And why do you think that? I personally think that every PhD should pursue a hobby apart from having their own PhD work, which like consumes their mind like totally, right? So, why do you think that? If at all, if you think that way, that every PhD should pursue a hobby apart from their doing their PhD full time. And if at all, if you think this way, I think that helps in certain way while pursuing your PhD, which is so difficult to do. Do you think the same way, Ambarish?
Exactly, Rima. Completely agree. So I would say, irrelevant of the PhD or master's or bachelor's, it's very important that a student or any person, they should have some amount of time, or they should be focusing on one of the fine arts subject. Let's say music, drama, art, painting. I know you are a very good, you are learning dances now, and you are a very good painter as well. You really draw very well. I learned singing from my father and my mother. The preliminary education was given by my father, so I love singing because I can think of my father. So when my father passed away, I cannot express my grief or my thoughts via my PhD by writing a paper. That I can't do because it's a very technical thing, and you're connected emotionally with your parents or with your friends. You don't connect it technically, right? You're connecting technically, but with your colleagues, not your from your family. So if you're having all those fine art skills or any of them, let's say my wife, she's a very good painter. So if she's having some grief, she used to paint. And in her painting, I can feel that, oh, this person is not happy or she is not happy. The same applies to singing as well. So if you're in a grief, you will automatically sing some songs which are a bit griefy. You will not sing a very happy song. But if you want to make your mood bit lighter, you will hear some good songs. So that's very much important. You should have a good skills. And in that aspect, I would say that I've done a Visharat course in Indian classical music. I'm a trained classical singer, and I've started taking musical classes in UK now, in Glasgow as well. I have a good number of students who are coming, and I'm very happy when I see kids of 5 or 5.5 years of age when they come and they start singing. It gives a lot of satisfaction as well. There are a few people as well who are maybe a bit challenging as well, but they really sing very well. So that's something which I really enjoy to sing for myself, and that how it helps me to connect me with my father as well, because I was very much emotionally attached to him in terms of singing. So whenever I sing, I just feel of him. So that's a divinity connection between me and my father by that singing, I would say.
Right. I know you have been through some of the toughest phases during your PhD and masters as well. And so that's why I intended to ask this question. Whenever you felt low, what is the one song that you sang to yourself to get your spirits up?
There is one song by Lata Mangeshkar. मारने वाला है भगवान बचाने वाला है भगवान. So that's something which my father always used to listen almost every day. So he always used to think that whatever is happening is because of the God. So if my life is for 60 years, I will live for 60 years. I would say an example. He was in a bus full of around 250 people. He was coming from one of the regions in Madhya Pradesh. The bus fell into, I don't know what to say, khai in India, in English language.
It's valley, valley.
Valley, exactly, valley. So the bus fell into the valley. Many people died. He just had his legs cracked. Nothing else happened to him. But then, yeah, when he got cancer, he just survived for 2.5 years. So he always used to tell that whatever is happening is because of the God's wish. Yeah, you can help yourself to make your life better, but there are some things which is beyond your control. So that's why whenever I feel low, I always listen to this song. I always used to sing this song. मारने वाला है भगवान, बचाने वाला है भगवान.
That's beautiful. That's kind of ironical too, and it's funny too. But that's a beautiful and the beautiful story you have behind that song. And moving forward, Amborish, uh, if you had a room full of PhDs, okay, what would be your three advices to them so that even though there will be challenges, and we spoke about it at length, they will be able to overcome it because there's a lot of PhDs that doubt them, that get frustrated easily, right? You must have also come across them, and that also those are also there who give up easily. Okay, so I know every PhD journey is different, but the kind of challenges we might be facing after doing PhD may be a lot same. So, what would be your three pieces of advices to them?
So my first advice to them will be that focus on yourself. That means compete with yourself. You don't have to compete with other person. To become a better person or a better researcher or a better academician, you have to just compete with yourself. That's my first advice to them. Just compete with yourself. The second, have seamlessness. It's going to, because it's a long journey, right? Investing my time in PhD and then again moving forward to academia or industry is a quite long time. So almost, let's say, 5 years PhD and let's say another 25 or 30 years of a career. So you have to be that seamlessness with you. And the third, I would say, speed or commitment towards research. So those are the three things which you should always have. And the last thing which I always consider in my role, that I never give the money as the top priority just for me. I know I discussed this one with you as well. So I always give if there are four factors, I always give money as the fourth factor. For me, let's say the research environment and the research facilities, they are much more higher credentials to me as compared to the money. But it again depends from person to person, what are their personal wishes or something. But yeah, don't get a PhD to earn more. So PhD is never about earning. It's all about making contribution to science. Though money is important, you cannot do research with empty stomach. You're not Einstein here. But at the same time, you have to keep in mind that PhD is not to earn money. It's about all disseminating the knowledge, earning a lot of knowledge, all those things. So that's what my piece of advice is.
Right. So I'm glad that you cleared it because many PhDs have this thing as well that, okay, knowledge, and you can have a lot of knowledge, but you should not have a lot of money. Okay. Because there's kind of a concept that having a lot of money is not a good thing. Many PhDs have that idea. Okay. But I'm glad you cleared it that you should be doing PhD, but the idea should not be to earn more money. However, having done your PhD, you should always look for ways where you can maximize your income, because it's always good that you're high on the intellectual scale. So it's always good to look for ways where you're high on the income scale as well. Okay. So Amborish, I think we had a very diverse conversation. The takeaways for me is that to stay relevant and there are the values that you should drive yourself. For you, it was self-learning and commitment, and also when it comes to uncertainty, there are uncertainty always prevailing. You cannot do much about it. But if you are dedicated to what you're doing, you're continuously upskilling, you're continuously learning, then you must be able to get past that uncertainty. And of course, that song was like bang on. Marne wala, marne wala hai Bhagwan, bachane wala hai Bhagwan. So that's like a mantra. Every PhD, whoever is listening to this, please remember this. And if you're feeling low, then tell yourself this and move on with whatever is coming your way and do it with a lot of fun. Thank you so much, Amborish, for being so candid on this episode. And I had a lot of fun talking to you, knowing about your entire journey through you, though we never had the opportunity to have the conversation this way. And I'm wishing all the best for the baby that's coming soon. And on that note, this is the last question of the episode, Amborish. Have you decided a song that you're going to sing for that baby?
So no, I've not thought about a specific song, but the baby is, I think he or she is enjoying our musical journey, because every day in the evening we used to sing almost 1.5 hours, and the babies keep on kicking when he or she listens to the song. So I've not selected a specific song, but yeah, if it comes, I would sing a Rag Darbari, because that's something very close to my heart. So that's something which I will sing for him or her.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much once again. And anybody, if you want to have a further insight on how the manufacturing sector is growing in the next 5 years. And if you are into mechanical metallurgy, how can you stay relevant and how can you land opportunities like Amborish has? Maybe you can get in touch with him through his LinkedIn profile, and he will be more than happy to answer each of your questions. Once again, Amborish, it was awesome knowing you once again through a different kind of conversation that we had for the Smart Dumb podcast. And to the audience, we look forward to having you in the next. We look forward to seeing you in the next podcast. And please do share your comments in the comment section below and let us know what was your one important takeaway. For me, it was definitely "Marne wala hai Bhagwan, bachane wala hai Bhagwan."
Thank you, Rima. Thanks. It was a very wonderful session to have a conversation with you and with the other audience as well. So thank you very much for having me here.